And we are live. Greetings, greetings, everyone. Greetings to you, Rohan. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am very good, thank you. Just hot. Oh my goodness, guys. It's very, very hot. So, if you see me struggling, if you hear that sound in the background, it's the fan. Because if I turn off the fan for a second, I will literally melt. Just want to welcome Rashida, Anu, Michelle, Janet. Long time no see, Janet. Welcome. Felita, Farida. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are just about at the wrap up point of our series. We're going to, I'm thinking that we should do Q&A uh, in the form of a Zoom so we can ask questions about the whole course. And if there's anyone that wants to shoot me a topic that they'd like me to cover between now and the 14th, then I can do that. I wanted to kind of have a little graduation ceremony of sorts. I was thinking of July 9th for that. But of course, I will share all of those details in the group as time goes by. So I'm just going to hand over to Rohan now to kick things off with a little bit of a clearing, and then we will start things off in terms of today's lecture. Over to you, Rohan.
Hey, thank you. Awesome. You know, we're going in. We're going in. Just going to ask you to close your eyes and connect it to what is here, breath and sensation. Just get a sense of anything, any emotional stuff. Once you get that a sense of that, you start feeling sensations or we feel emotional stuff physically, and we just keep our attention on that. And as you do the clearings, you're just going to take some slow deep breath into wherever you're feeling that sensation in the body. That's actually turning it over to the intelligence. There's an intelligence in our body that heals us. We're just, surrendering, getting out of the way and allow that. It knows what to do. The only thing we're doing all the while is getting in the way of that. So just breath. And we don't have to judge what we feel. We don't have to put any negative spin on it, like call it in any emotional label. Just notice it. Just feel what you feel. That's all. It's good check what you feel now and comparing, we normally use what we call a pain scale to get a level of the sensation that you feel. So you notice the difference if it goes down, if it's big or small or different. You just get a sense of that as well. Right, thank you. Just came into your grounding and people and addressing some things around creativity and speaking up. So interestingly, we have question and answer time, so we're working around stuff like that that came through. So just keep noticing those sensations. And you're ready, Paula.
Thank you so much, Rohan. And we will, we're, okay, very grateful to have you here clearing with us this afternoon. Tonia is unavoidably absent, so I will do a brief um, introduction and introspection. And I just want to welcome those other persons who have joined us. Felicia, Gianna, Melissa, greetings, greetings, greetings. And for all of those other persons who don't type, greetings to you, welcome. There's 23 of us here. Lauren, welcome. And we are just about to get into it. So let me just use the gong to tune the session. We bring this evening's session open. And I want to just start off by acknowledging the fact that we are at a very important cosmological, astrological juncture. We have a full moon tonight. We also have the Mercury retrograde coming into force, and we also have Jupiter moving into Leo. So there's a lot of movement today, and we are here to tap into all of it together. I'm so grateful that it was suggested that we actually do the breath work for the last couple of mornings, because whatever rupture there was in the community firewall has been mended by just us coming together for those couple of mornings, visualizing and breathing together. This morning was lovely. We actually had a lovely breathwork session. Anu um, led that, and we ended up right beside a little stream, and everybody was able to get the sound of water as we wrapped up our meditation. So, for the benefit of the persons that were not there this morning, I just wanted to share this beautiful affirmation that was written by Baba Yuan. He shared it with me, and I read it this morning, and I think it's a beautiful way to start this session. It says, O Aset, great mother of divine wisdom, and Teuti, keeper of the sacred records, guide my mind and heart into harmony with truth. As a New Earth leader and eternal student of your mysteries, I have learned not to break the lock, but to understand the combination, not to force open the doors of the unseen, but to align myself with the frequencies that open them naturally. Teach me to walk in harmony with Ma'at, to enter the sacred library of Tehuti with humility, reverence, and clarity. May I not seek merely to perform magic or cast spells, but to become the living embodiment of divine wisdom, sacred speech, and righteous action. For the highest magic is not what we do, it is what we become. May I be the code. May I be the prayer. May I be the spell written upon the fabric of creation. May I remember that the Akashic realms are not conquered, but entered through alignment, devotion, and divine remembrance. May wisdom awaken within all of us. May truth prevail. And may we become what we seek. And so it is. So, with that beautiful affirmation, let us now close our eyes and take a lovely deep breath as we recognize the beautiful moment that we are now standing in with each other, beside each other, shoulder to shoulder with each other, synchronized breath, synchronized consciousness, synchronized vision. We call in our spirit guides, the angelic realm, the ancestral realm, to be present with us now as we connect with our higher selves and with divine source. And as usual, we affirm that wisdom and understanding becomes available to all of us. That anything that we may not understand in this moment, during our astral sleep tonight, we will understand it all. And so it is. Let's take a nice deep breath in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Nice deep breath in and breathe out. And so we begin this evening's session. And this evening's session is Stewarding Consciousness through the Great Transition. And as far as I'm concerned, we are going through the Great Transition right now. I'm turning off the fan because I think it might be a little loud. But here we are. The Great Transition is from now into next year, June. So from June this year into next year, June. It's going to be a continuum. It's not going to just be, we'll wake up tomorrow morning and it's different. It's going to be a gradual process. And in going through that gradual process, we have an opportunity to be very present in how we think, feel, operate, because we are stepping into and embodying our new role as new earth leaders. And I don't know if you guys can feel it, but it feels like every time we get together, it's just that much more potent, because there is such great awareness of this journey that we are on, you know? So let me just check something. I think this was supposed to be a give me just a second. Let me just check on something. Okay. All right. I was wondering why the numbers were so high. Uh, there's some people that are in here that are not supposed to be in here. I accidentally made the link public. So I see Indira and Tracy. I was wondering where you are, but welcome. If you're here, you might as well stay. But you might not understand everything because this is a part of a course that we're doing. All right, so let's jump right in. So far, we have covered all of the following. We've covered the spine as a transmitter, the breath work as cosmic anchoring, the chakras and aura as quantum portals, activating the biofield, aura strengthening and shielding, quantum sovereignty, influencing the quantum field influence, and quantum grid geometry, intention, breath, and voice for editing timelines, ley lines, portals, energy grids, and understanding the flow of energy around the planet. And then last week, we worked on, um, I'm forgetting the topic we were talking about. Um, I'm having just a little memory lapse here, but we'll get into it. So today, the full moon in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Leo, year of the fire horse. All of that is combining, and we are confirming for sure that the next generation of leaders will not simply manage systems, they will steward consciousness, right? We are coming out of a situation where leadership was all about setting up certain rigid infrastructures that everybody had to conform to, be in or out. And if you're not conforming, then you are deemed rebellious or a problem to the structure. In this next generation, we will not be taking that approach. So, where have we been? The journey recap from sovereignty to stewardship. So, our 4 month arc has been around quantum sovereignty, mastering your personal field. Remember, we spent a lot of time working or understanding our chakras and the biofield, because when your biofield is strong, then that's the first point of interaction with yourself. And so if your biofield is strong, you are protected. If your biofield is strong, where you live, where you are, is also protected. Then we go into grid connection, understanding Earth's energy architecture, because to be able to protect Earth's energy field and be guardians of Earth grids and the nodes and the portals, then we have to understand how all of that works. And then timeline editing, consciously shaping reality. Then grid protection, shielding natural systems from artificial intrusion. That's what we did last week. We were talking about artificial intrusions. And when we say artificial intrusions, we are talking about frequency intrusions, aerosol intrusions, informational intrusions. And we ran into a little bit of a pickle with some members of the group that were observing last week's presentation that were not resonating with what was shared. So we face the main question: can artificial systems override natural systems? Of course, the answer is no. But the ones that are promulgating the artificial systems are hoping that it can happen. But little by little, with consciousness growing on the planet, it is going to be more and more difficult to override the natural systems. So, this astrological moment, this astrological ignition today, what does this moment mean? Today's mission is to step fully into our roles as a conscious steward during this astrological ignition point. So, full moon in Sagittarius, Jupiter moving into Leo, plus the Mercury retrograde, which also starts today, plus the fire horse year, means that there is not a triple amplification but a quadruple amplification. This full moon in Sagittarius is getting us to consider truth, vision, and the courage to walk new paths. Jupiter in Leo means there's expanded heart leadership, creative sovereignty, and regal responsibility. You notice at the front of the presentation, I had a beautiful lion silhouetted by the strawberry moon. Expanded heart leadership. Pink color of the strawberry moon, indicative of the heart. And what it also, in fact, means is that each of us on a personal level can look at moving forward because something has shifted. I don't know if you guys can feel it, but I definitely felt like something opened up over the last 2 days. Things that were not moving, things that were demonstrating some level of stagnation, suddenly they have unclogged and there is flow. So if you're experiencing that, please drop that comment in the comment section or share how you're feeling. Um, we had the earthquake in Venezuela. This was very unfortunate, but you know what they say, every single or action on this planet is impacting so many more of us. Whenever there is a disaster of this nature, there is a huge outpouring of love that is directed to the country. And so, even in the midst of the grief and the destruction, there is a huge amount of love that is flooding the location. So, we also want to add to the love and light that we are sending to Venezuela at this time. And lastly, the fire horse year, unbridled energy, rapid change, and the power to carry collective vision forward. Now, I said quadruple amplification because the Mercury retrograde, which usually slows things down, it is in fact going to be doing the same thing, but not in a way that is ob- obstructive. It's slowing things down so that we can see a little bit more clearly, so that our decision making is going to be based on going more slowly and precisely. So, in this case, the Mercury retrograde is not going to be detrimental, it will be of value. So, now it's the invitation to leadership. This is not a passive alignment, it is a call to mount the horse of your destiny, hold the torch of truth, and lead from the heart of a lion. And the question for reflection this evening: what vision is your heart on fire to bring forth in the coming months? Because that question is going to determine what your vision looks like on the personal level. And believe me when I say the doors are open wide and the roads are clear. It is time to move forward with your vision, whatever they are. So, this whole notion of stewarding consciousness beyond management, beyond protection, and into co creation. To hold a coherent heart centered frequency that becomes a living template for the emerging reality. What does this mean? It means you are a frequency anchor in times of chaos. You are a timeline gardener. I like that. I love that notion of a timeline gardener, meaning that you are tending the seeds of the new. You are a consciousness translator between the human and the planetary. Right? Look at the planetary configurations right now and look at how we are translating them. So we know it's a time to move forward. We know it's a time to jump on our horse and take off. So we are translating what is taking place in the heavens and we are making it manifest on the earth. You are a memory activator for ancestral and galactic wisdom. You are a frequency anchor in times of chaos. So we are moving into times of chaos right now. Because believe me when I say, and this is not predictive programming, and this is not me misusing my voice, this is me just sharing what I am observing based on pattern recognition. July might possibly be very chaotic, but I am saying that now to prepare everyone here for that chaos, because what we are trying to ensure is that we can anchor in times of chaos. So now we are shifting from defending against intrusions to actively generating a field so coherent that intrusions cannot take root. Let me repeat that because I am guilty of using terminologies that suggest that we are up against them and it's we and them. So I'm guilty, and so I want to emphasize this shift because we are learning every day. We are course correcting and recalibrating every day. And every time I want to talk about me and them, Rowan always tells me, no, we can't create separation. We should merge. We should harmonize. So here we go. So we are no longer defending against intrusions. What we are doing is actively generating a field of consciousness that is so coherent that intrusions cannot take root. So that's quite a little bit of a difference. Okay? Now, last week we spoke about the firewalls. The firewalls that we can set up to protect the planetary grid. We spoke about the personal firewall, which is our biofield, our energy field. Then we spoke about the community firewall, which is the energetic field that we establish from being with each other all the time, breathing with each other all the time, meditating with each other all the time. And then we have the planetary firewall, which is the grid symphony conductor, where we become the grid symphony conductor. We don't just shield the grid, we help it to sing, we orchestrate the flow of energy with conscious intention. Okay? So this new principle is the highest form of protection is irresistible. It is magnetic creation. All right. I am just going to make a quick edit once more. Before we move on. All right. Okay. So we continue on this presentation. So as we wrap up this series of New Earth Leadership training sessions, I want us to, for a brief moment, think about this whole notion of cosmic sovereignty, mastery, and legacy integration, right? Because that's where we are now, where we are at a point where we are fully aligned with the cosmos, fully aligned with legacy. Are we back? Okay, guys, sorry about that. I'm here, guys. Let me put myself back on the stage. Um, um, uh, can you hear me now? All right. I need to ensure that you guys are able to hear me. All right. Everybody can hear me? Okay, great. So sorry about that. What was happening was that when I created the session today, I made it public.
So everybody on YouTube was just joining. So there was like 40 people on. So I went in and I tried to edit it and make it private. When I made it private, it kicked everyone off. So I made it unlisted. So we are back again. So please accept apologies for that. Here is where we were. We were just at that point where we were talking about cosmic sovereignty, mastery, and legacy integration. All right. So we were talking about the whole notion of embodying the sovereign grid keeper, transmitter, and light bearer archetypes. Because that's what we were talking about when we started talking about being a new earth leader. There are certain archetypes associated with the new earth leadership role. There are certain traits and characteristics that we have to embody as we move into it. So we have to embody sovereignty, we have to embody mastery, and we have to embody legacy integration. So in order to embody sovereignty, then we start to take on the archetypes associated with the new earth leader. So the final initiation, you were never being trained to become someone else. You were remembering who you already are. So this whole course is not me teaching you anything. It's really just putting everything together so you can remember who you are and step into and embody the different aspects of who you already are. You were already preloaded with these archetypes within. And so this course, this series is really just remembrance. So the hero's journey has become the steward's journey because we are no longer fighting a battle. We are stewards of consciousness. We are stewards of new earth. We are stewards of a new reality. Yeah? So what is cosmic sovereignty? True sovereignty is not control. It is alignment. Alignment, harmonization, merging. So a sovereign being thinks independently, feels deeply, acts consciously, creates responsibly, serves willingly. And cosmic sovereignty is freedom from unconscious programming. And we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about, not yesterday, Thursday, talking about programming and indoctrination. Because a lot of what we know and how we see the world is because of indoctrination. Everything is indoctrination. Or the education system is indoctrination. The political systems are indoctrination. The man-made religions and faith-based concepts are some levels of indoctrination. So it's for us to be able to witness all of these without judging them and come to our own conclusions as to what actually obtains. So the three archetypes of the New Earth leadership, the grid keeper, the transmitter, the light bearer. These are not roles, these are states of being. And the mature leader embodies all three. So I will not sit here and say, oh, I am only a grid keeper. Because I embody aspects of being a grid keeper, I embody aspects of being a transmitter, and I embody aspects of being a light bearer. So let's get into what each one of them involves. So the grid keeper is the guardian of coherence, and their responsibilities, they protect energetic integrity. So we deal with energy grid, we deal with light grid, We form frequency nets. We form grids of protection. That's what grid keepers do. We maintain frequency stability and we anchor collective calm during chaos. We hold sacred space and we steward community evolution. So, the big question here to all the grid keepers here, can you remain centered when the world is not? Can you remain centered when the world is not? It's a big question. Then we have the transmitter. The transmitter is the broadcaster of new reality. The transmitter encodes frequency into words, inspires transformation, activates remembrance, and influences fields through presence. They carry future possibilities. So the transmitters are the ones who hold the vision for new earth, the vision of heaven on earth. We are the transmitters. We transmit light. We transmit love. Different things at different times based on what is required in the moment. Okay? So every leader transmits, whether conscious of it or not. And this is why it's so important that we do a course like this to sort of get new earth leaders aligned with what the expectations are for leadership, getting them to understand that it's an embodiment more than anything else. So we can train you to be a new earth leader, but you have to become the new earth leader. You have to step into that role when you're ready. So you can get all this information and still not embody it. That's what we're talking about in this session today. Embodying it, and stepping into the role. Alright? And then the light bearer. The light bearer is the one that walks between the worlds. The light bearer illuminates hidden truth. They bridge ancient and future wisdom. And they carry hope through transition. They guide without controlling. And they lead through example. Light is not dominance. Light is revelation. So I hope you can see the subtle difference between the old definitions of leadership and the new definitions of new earth leaders that lead through example and do not lead by dominating. Right? They bridge ancient and future wisdom. They illuminate hidden truths. Right? Now, the truth is, though, that some people are not ready for truths. So even if we try to illuminate hidden truths, there are some people that are not ready for the truth and will reject the truth. And we need to anticipate that that will happen. But the important thing is to stand and be steady in the midst of the swirling chaos, in the midst of opposition. You stand in your power and you stand in your truth. Now that we've talked about the different archetypes, now we want to talk about the 4 levels of mastery, and this is pretty simple and straightforward. Level 1, information, knowing. Level 2, application, doing. Level 3, embodiment, being. And level 4, transmission, becoming the teaching. Alright? So if you think about the mastery of associated with New Earth leadership, you kind of have an idea of where you are right now. Level one, we shared all the information. Level two, many of you are in fact applying this information in your daily routines. Level three, many of you are actually embodying being a New Earth leader, right? And we are all going to be moving into level four very, very soon. Even if you might be a little resistant and you might not have the confidence yet, believe me when I say July is going to make all of us step into the embodiment and become the teaching in very short order. So I'm confident that everybody here is ready for that. Now, in the middle of all of what I've just spoken about, there is a shadow version of New Earth leadership. Every gift has a shadow, and for the grid keeper, it might be rigidity. Okay, so now that we know what the shadows are, we don't have to avoid them because once you have light, you're always going to have shadow. But what we can do is see how we can merge with, integrate, and harmonize these possible shadows with the light. So we have a beautiful balance. Okay? So there's some level of rigidity that is needed, but if it goes over, then it becomes a problem. So for example, discipline, the discipline of rising early every morning and doing a specific routine that builds your strength, builds your biofield, builds your breath work. That is discipline. That is commitment, right? If it goes further than that, then it becomes rigidity. And we never want to be rigid in anything. We always want to be able to flow. Okay? So we are called to balance the shadows, the light and the dark. In terms of the transmitter, the shadow is the ego. Because of course the transmitter has a particular role where they're showing the way. And so they may get caught up and think they are the light in that way that only ego works. So we want to avoid that. And then for the light bearer, the temptation is to have a savior complex. Oh, I need to help to heal this and I need to help to heal that. And I want to save the world and I want to help all the people who are over on the New World Order to come over to New Earth because it's the right thing. Well, I think I've been guilty in some areas of moving over onto that side a little bit. But I'll come back over when I need to. So it's really just identifying what the shadows are so that we can monitor ourselves and we can self-assess all the time. All right? So leadership maturity requires humility, self-awareness, accountability, and service. Humility will ensure that you will not get into your ego and you won't be rigid and inflexible. Right? Self-awareness is the thing that will make you check yourself, self-assess. Not be afraid to ask someone, what do you think? Do you think I've gone a little bit overboard here? Do you think I'm overdoing it here? Yeah? Self-awareness, very important. Accountability. That one is an interesting one. Sometimes we talk about accountability, yet we do not hold ourselves accountable. And so I want to encourage everyone to look into taking accountability for all your actions, all your words, all your deeds. And Then finally, service. Service to humanity, service to others, service to your community. And again, we have to be careful here, where some of us go overboard and we spend so much time in service to community and service to the whole world, and we leave out ourselves. Also been guilty of that, but now I'm bringing everything into balance, and I encourage everyone here also to maintain that balance between service to humanity, service to community, and take more into consideration service to self. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Which leads us to cosmic discernment. The new earth leader's compass. We always want to avoid certain things that have kept our ancestors and our forefathers in bondage. Mental, emotional, and physical bondage, even spiritual bondage. Alright? So the things that we want to avoid as New Earth leaders. Blind obedience. Very important. Blind skepticism. And what we want to cultivate is inquiry, intuition, observation, wisdom, and discernment is spiritual sovereignty in action. Let me repeat that. Discernment is spiritual sovereignty in action. Now, here we are at the legacy question. What will remain after you? Certainly not followers and likes and recognition. That's very, very superficial and very trendy. In another few years, in probably even in another few months, the number of followers and likes and recognition that you get will not matter at all. In fact, 3 years ago, the number of followers was an indicator of success. Now it isn't, because we know that there are bots and there are ways to artificially inflate follower numbers. There are bots that can artificially inflate how many likes you get, and people are doing all sorts of things with algorithms to get recognition, artificial recognition. So those things are no longer valid legacy. But what do we look at as legacy? Lives transformed, communities strengthened, consciousness elevated, and future generations empowered. So when you think about yourself as a New Earth leader, you should be thinking about how many lives have you transformed, or how many lives can you transform? How many communities have you strengthened, or how many communities can you strengthen? How many people can you assist with elevating their consciousness? And what mechanisms can you put in place to ensure that future generations are empowered? So in this case, me running this New Earth Leadership course is assisting future generations to be empowered, because you guys are going to be stepping out as New Earth leaders, and you can do the same thing that I have just done with a small group, with a small community, with pairs, with people in your locality. Alright? And then another thing that we need to be doing as New Earth leaders is activating our ancestral council and also activating the galactic council. So in terms of activating the ancestral council. We're talking about the wisdom behind us. So when we visualize the ancestors behind us, the teachers beside us, and the future generations before us. And we ask, what legacy am I here to anchor? Okay, very important question. What legacy am I here to anchor? Right? That is how we activate the ancestral council. Always, we are never alone. We will always have the ancestors, the ancestral council, and the galactic council. Now, the galactic council has to do with the wisdom beyond us. So when we visualize, we are supposed to be visualizing the stars above, the earth below, the heart in the center. So we become the bridge between cosmic intelligence and human experience. And it's so interesting because I've been lately seeing this new conversation coming up where a lot of people are getting the sense that the galactics, the star beings, are the evolved versions of humanity. So the greys and the praying mantis, they are actually humanoids evolved. Humanity evolved into those humanoid beings. That's a very interesting concept, but a lot of people have literally been reaching out to me and saying, Paula, I had a dream and I saw myself, but I wasn't myself. I was a gray, I was an alien, I was an alien gray. And that is such an interesting concept, but more and more people are having that experience. And so, what is expected from the new earth leaders in these coming months? We are walking into a landscape of choice, and we are navigating the bifurcation of timelines. We spoke about this last week when we were talking about CERN, where we were discussing the fact that CERN has been operational for the last 4 years, and some people believe that CERN has been messing with the timelines, creating new timelines, multiple timelines, and creating chaos because there are so many timelines. The fact that it's closed off now, turned off now, means that humanity actually has a chance to strengthen the timeline of heaven on earth, the timeline of new earth, right? So, what are we going to witness in the next couple of days, weeks, months? I always say days, weeks, months, because some of the things that we are expecting happen over a couple of days. Sometimes it happens over a couple of weeks. Sometimes it happens over a couple of months. So we should be prepared for whatever the pace is. However, they are saying that things are going to accelerate. So they're expecting accelerated disclosure of both shadow and light. We're expecting to witness systemic fluctuations in social, economic, and environmental structures. We're already seeing that with the wars continuing, the geopolitical situations continue to be in flux. And in terms of the environmental structures, we are seeing the entire Pacific Ring of Fire activated with large magnitude earthquakes and very severe storms and severe weathers all over the world. As we speak, Europe is virtually melting. They have temperatures in the 40s, as in 40 odd degrees Celsius, which is unheard of in Europe, right? In the US, it's summertime, but they are having hailstorms with ice streams running down the middle of the road in Idaho and Utah. right now as we are speaking. So really strange weather phenomena. Okay, those are going to continue. And then we have the consciousness polarization, where there is a widening gap between fear-based and heart-based perception. That's going to continue as well. That polarization is by design, and we'll see where it goes. The important thing is in the midst of the chaos and the polarity, we remain steady and constant and stayed on our vision of new earth, stewarding consciousness. So the leader's role is not to fix the old, it is to embody the new so vividly that it becomes a gravitational pull towards a higher timeline. So our focus is stewards to steward the transition, not the institution. Okay? So we are to be stewards of the transition and not stewards of the existing institutions. Very delicate differentiation, but very important differentiation. So, here are some practices, and I know we've gone through them in the past in other sessions. This is just a reinforcement again for everyone for practices that we can use as we transition into our leadership discipline. Not rigidity, just discipline, just commitment, right? 5 minutes at sunrise, we align our heart rhythm with the solar pulse and anchor it into your local ley line. Very important. Remember, you are now the node. You are now the earth grid node. The node is the intersection of energy lines. You are at that intersection. So you are the node. And then perhaps at midday you do a little bit of a coherence check. Am I leading from reaction or creation? Am I fragmented or focused? Okay? This thing of becoming fragmented, it's so easy because we were already fragmented through our childhood. And so healing requires us to pull those fragments together and become whole again. So sometimes, because we were fragmented for so many years, we will find ourselves fragmenting during the day. And so when we do a little bit of a coherence check, we can slow things down, use the breath to bring us back into coherence, use the breath to bring us back into focus. Yeah? So 1 minute of heart breath resets your field. So some of the breath work that we've been doing for the last couple of mornings, for the entire month of June, I would say, we can use those tools to get us back into coherence if we find ourselves slipping. And then in the evening time, we do an evening grid contribution where we send one stream of gratitude or healing to a planetary power node like, the Amazon or the Arctic or the 77th meridian or the equator, wherever. Mount Shasta, the Giza pyramids, Peru, Lake Titicaca, wherever you want to send your stream of gratitude or healing. And then last but not least, before we go to sleep, we want to invite guidance from our ancestral and galactic lineage. And therefore, we keep a journal by our bed because sometimes when we get the downloads, the guidance from our ancestral or our galactic lineage, we'll wake up with the curious message and we're going to be like, what is this? Write it down. And then later on in the day, you're going to go, oh, that was not a dream. That was a download. Oh, that wasn't a download. That was a set of instructions. Yeah? So In the morning, we connect with our hearts. At midday, we do a little bit of a coherence check. In the evening, we send a stream of gratitude. And then, dream time, we invite guidance from our ancestral and our galactic lineage. Very interesting, but a very useful routine that we can take. And so, our last session, we were talking about the organic versus the synthetic crossroads. Consciousness must lead technology. Because last week we were talking about how the synthetic is trying with all sorts of intrusions. But no matter what happens, the organics will always overcome synthetics. Consciousness must lead technology. Now, a member of this group sent me a very interesting article. It was all about the data centers where we saw a very present threat in the form of data centers, where hundreds of thousands of data centers were scheduled to be set up all across the United States. But what about data centers? Data centers are very water hungry. They're water hogs. They expect to utilize millions of gallons of water. And so they're actually competing with humans who need water for consumption. And so just lately, a lot of legislation was being put through, pushing these data centers through at the expense of communities and cities and humanity. But guess what happened? There is one small component that is made only in China, and there is a 5-year lead time required to order that particular component. And so that component is now the thing that is glitching the number of data centers that can come online in North America. So we are ecstatic to see that is actually glitching the data centers. I was watching an article too to say that the last time the CERN collider was switched off, that was the dot-com bust. The dot-com bubble was busted. Another time when the CERN collider got turned off, there was a real estate bubble that burst in the US in 2008, I believe it was. So many times things happen that glitch the matrix, and I feel like the AI bubble is about to get busted in this little time that we're in because of these data centers not being able to ramp up at the pace that they had planned to. All right, so we continue to affirm that everything is in divine order and the technology will not run away, because based on the pace that AI was taking, they were quite sure that AI was going to be overrunning humanity, taking away jobs, taking away lots of privileges from humans. So it looks as if that may be curtailed somewhat. So all technology must be held within and evaluated by a field of heart coherence, ethical discernment, and sacred relationship. So we can use AI as new earth leaders, but we don't abuse it, we don't become dependent on it, and we certainly don't just say, oh, AI is always right, I might be wrong. Never. Human consciousness will always lead technology, no matter how fast and how quick technology is. human consciousness will always lead technology. It is human consciousness that created the technology, right? So, transhumanism is the way that technology is wanting to outstrip humanity, right? And so, the continuum is the trans agenda leading straight into transhumanist agenda. Very careful. It's a very slippery slope. And most people can't see that it's a slippery slope. Because we're told don't judge, and so everybody just like, okay, I will not judge. But sometimes, even if you don't judge, carefully assess your environment. That's all I'm going to say. All right? You, New Earth leaders, you are the holder of that field. Right? So you can take a practical stance where you use technology as a tool, never as a crutch for your consciousness. If you can, digitally fast 1 day a week to strengthen your organic neural networks. I find that difficult to do, but once in a while, if I go on a trip out of town, I'll put my phone in my handbag. I won't look at any social media. I won't look at any WhatsApp messages, and I won't look at any videos at all. I am just present to the moment, present to the beauty around me, present to the location that I visited or the people that I'm meeting for the first time. Okay? And then I'm able to connect to nature so much easier. And then the last one, bless the device that you use. Imbue them with your intention for connection, not distraction. Guys, these devices that we use are actually conduits. And so every session I do before I start, I light my incense and I kind of smudge my computer and my laptop and my phone. Yeah? Just to ensure that the connection is clear, just to be sure that the spirit in which I am using the device is the spirit in which the interaction will continue to take place. Not idleness, not escapism, not doom scrolling, but information gathering and pattern recognition. Not for fear-based interaction, but for us to be able to send love and light where it is necessary in the moment. So now here we are. You are the infrastructure of the new earth. You, not the governments, not the global hierarchical system that were implemented by the patriarchy thousands of years ago, but you, little old you, little old me. I'm using little old you and little old me in quotations, but I by no means do I mean you're little. I mean that within the context of humanity, they would say, oh, just this bunch of people sitting in their living room sharing this information, they're inconsequential. But New Earth leaders are not nominated or voted in. They step into their role and they embody the mission that is required in the moment. So, a grid node is not a place, it is a person in purpose. So, you are the grid node. Your stable, loving presence in your family, in your workplace, or your community is an active node in Earth's crystalline grid, in Earth's light grid. Your assignment for the next moon cycle, the next new moon is the 14th of July, I believe, is to Identify your sphere of influence. What does that look like? You know, home, the local cafe that you get your coffee at, where you bring your laptop and you work from, your online community. Really sit down and assess that, right? And then look at the ripple. Here is the ripple. One conscious leader in a grocery store line can calm a dozen nervous systems. This is not a metaphor. This is quantum influence. And this is your new job. So we need to realize that wherever we go, we are walking grid keepers, transmitters, light bearers, right? And so as we end tonight, we can do this little pledge. Yeah? We can make this our collective affirmation under this expansive full moon. And so we close our eyes in this moment and we can affirm that I am a new earth leader. I steward consciousness. I protect the sacred. I create from the heart. I remember the wisdom of my ancestors and the vision of my star origins. I will not be distracted, fragmented, or led into fear. I am a living bridge between worlds, a gardener of timelines, a node of luminous love in the great grid of life. My leadership is my service. My coherence is my gift. My presence is my power. I am ready. I am here. I am home. And so this is the last lecture, but this is not an end. It is a nexus point. We are going to move forward and keep this little network, this little community alive, so that we always remember that we are never alone, right? So some of the things that we can do, and again, this is important because one way that I had wanted to maintain the community is through WhatsApp groups, but it's I don't find it sustainable. And sometimes if the group is not carefully curated or managed, then you can have anomalies in the group. Um, Strange things happen in the group because it is a field and it has to be cultivated and curated all the time. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming for me. So, what we can do is decide how we can move forward and what kind of infrastructure we can set up so that we maintain some sort of loose contact with each other. Some suggestions here are to form triads, connect with two or so other graduates, meet monthly in person or in consciousness to share, support, and amplify. And then we can also decide that we want to continue to do our moon cycle practices where we continue to use the new moon for grid blessings and preceding visions, and then, use the different symbolism, astrological symbolisms to guide or curate different activities as we move forward. So this brings us to the end of this evening's session. I wasn't looking at the comment sections, but I want to ensure that if there are any questions, you guys will feel free to reach out to me. We want to have a little bit of a graduation ceremony on July 9th, but we actually finish and wrap up everything between July 14th and 15th. July 14th is our final new moon crystal grid activation as a collective, and then the 15th will be the 5-5 portal meditation. So between now and the 15th, I would like for all the participants in the New Earth Leadership Training to think about any area that you think that I just glossed over, I didn't cover it adequately, and just let me know. And what I can do is I can organize a Zoom where we actually have Q&A and I address those questions or concerns face to face with the group. So it wouldn't be a YouTube session, it would be a Zoom session where you can ask questions and I answer them in real time. All right? So let us make sure that we have gotten all of what we need from this training, that I've addressed all the questions. One area that I know that I glossed over and I promised that I would come with some more detail is with the sacred geometry and the different sacred geometry signs and how they move from 3D into 4D into 5D. Yeah, a video on that. So I will make sure to share that before the 14th, 15th. At the end of the 14th, 15th of July, I will terminate the group and we are going to, you will decide whether you want to reconnect in the community. We will be reverting back to my website, which is paulaherlock.live. You become a monthly, there's a membership there. You can sign up there and we always meet regularly and we can continue the work here. But I give everyone the option to disconnect, calibrate and see whether this was worth it, and then they can rejoin us. And then we decide what else we need, what the next levels are, and so on. It's entirely up to the group. Okay, so I want to thank you all for being here. Remember, I always say, whatever you don't understand as we are going through this conversation, when you're going to sleep tonight, you call on the astral team to assist you in understanding everything that was shared. As usual, any strange or interesting dreams, take note of them so you can share them in the group, because sometimes we can all be having little fragments of dreams, and if we share them in the group, it triggers a whole remembrance of a download that you received astrally, but you didn't remember. So don't be ashamed of sharing those dreams. One person in this group shared with me that her daughter was having a dream of all the people on the planet gaining their superpowers, and then she had to open a portal, and then she had to slay a demon, and then she had to meet with a council of elders under the sea. And I just chuckled to myself because the number of persons that have come to me with that same dream is uncanny. So it means there is something going on in the collective where people are actually tapping into information, getting these downloads, especially our children, because a lot of this theme in the dream has come from parents telling me what their children have dreamed. Okay, so just inviting you to share your dream. This is one group where it's not going to sound crazy because we all understand that we are going through that transition now, and we're all tapping into very, very curious and strange events. So this brings us to the end of this evening's lecture. I hope it was helpful. There were a lot of people here, that came from the public group. I hope you understood. And, you know, you were meant to be here. So, welcome and thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I will see you all tomorrow in the comment section. Thank you very much.